Brian, so great to have you here with us because I think about when you and I spoke back in early March, it was just days before the world shut down. So much has happened since then, and you gave me a lot of time there, and you're so gracious to come back. Tell me a little bit about kind of where we are right now in this world. How do you see the pandemic? Are we on the other side of it yet?
Yeah, Carol, good to see you again. And yeah, crazy to think we were just a couple days before everything really
Right.
came to a grinding halt, unfortunately, and the pandemic really took off. But I think where we are right now is in a state where I think everybody understands what they need to be doing. And so as a result, I think people are starting, to demonstrate good behavior so that we all contribute in really containing the pandemic. We've been very fortunate in our restaurants where our employees, I think, are doing a lot of the right things. We put a lot of the right food safety practices and wellness practices in place. So that's giving people confidence to, basically use Chipotle as a meal solution. And then obviously our digital business is giving people access for that off-premise occasion that is becoming really critical.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that because I feel like you were very prescient in terms of the investments you made and when you came in about 2.5 years ago, focusing on that. Before we get to that, though, I do want to ask you, are you preparing your company, your staff, for a second round with the virus come the fall and winter months? And I do wonder if you're kind of taking precautions or setting up, just in case.
Yeah, look, I think we definitely have uncertainty in front of us. And so really the approach we're taking is we're following the recommendations of the CDC and a lot of the local health departments around making sure our employees are wearing masks. We're practicing the social distancing. No one works if they're not feeling healthy. And obviously we continue to be in a working remote environment. So we want to take all the precautions we can to hopefully contain the pandemic and get to the other side of this. It'd be a real disappointment if we have a setback. And I'm really hopeful that if we do all the right things as a company, as a community, we can avoid that setback.
Do you think we'll get one?
Honestly, I really hope people do the right things going forward so that we don't. I think the big recommendations out there are, go get flu shots, wear your mask, practice social distance, avoid big crowds. And that's our best bet to avoid a real, major flare up. But cold and flu season, more people are probably not going to feel great. And it's important people get tested. They understand whether they have COVID or just a common cold or flu. And then they need to do the right things to protect themselves, their family, their friends, and their communities. And I think if people just take that simple approach, I think, we'll get past this a lot faster than not taking those safety precautions.
It's interesting, Brian, you say doing the right thing too. We were talking with a doctor earlier, and I think a lot of folks are talking about a vaccine when we finally get one. There are now concerns that people won't take the vaccine. Would you require your employees, your staff, to take a vaccine in order to work?
No, we would not require people to take the vaccine. Obviously, I would want to do everything I can to make sure that they have access to the vaccine, especially those that are in those high-risk groups. Mm-hmm. But I think, your health and wellness is ultimately your personal decision. Whatever your decision is, though, if you aren't feeling healthy and you happen to have COVID, we do need you to, take those precautions to not get other people infected. But I'm focused on trying to stay in touch with people so I understand when vaccines get approved, how they will be distributed, and how I best get our employees access to those vaccines. But, at the end of the day, they need to make that decision for themselves.
Well, and I do wonder, too, I think that's really interesting to hear. And I feel like Chipotle has been throughout its history a company that thinks a lot about its employee base. So how do you keep, your employees safe, motivated during these trying times? We talk about, corporate culture when you've got people at home and people all over the place. How do you keep, though, your workers who have to be at work in order to get the job done? How do you keep them motivated during these trying times? And I'm curious if you've made any employee policy changes during the pandemic.
Yeah, look, Carol, I think fortunately for us, we've always been focused on our purpose, which is around this idea of cultivating a better world through food with integrity. And we've got some clear cultural values. around basically authenticity lives here, the movement is real, teach and taste Chipotle, and then the line is the moment of truth. And the reason why these values are really important is we've used them to guide a lot of our decisions. We believe our purpose and our values drive our culture. It's why people love to work at Chipotle. And we've been consistent, I think, in all our decision making against our purpose and our values. And I think it's given a lot of our employees a sense of pride. They love the fact that, regardless of how hard the decision is, we want to do the right thing for our communities, moving our purpose forward, and obviously our employees. So, we were fortunate. We already had a lot of things in practice
Right.
from a wellness standpoint, and paid sick leave, and a lot of employee programs around healthcare, mental wellness, mental health benefits that were available for not just the employee, but their families. So we were trying to surround people with all the right things. And those have been even more important in these challenging times. And, we've dialed up our communication. I'll tell you, the other thing that has really been powerful is we have really worked hard to communicate with every single employee at Chipotle, all 90,000+ of them. We're doing Zooms and web calls and telephone calls. I just want to keep them up to date with the most, up-to-date information. And the more they know, the more they can feel confident that we're making the right decisions and they're working in a safe environment. I've had the pleasure of making some day trips, visiting restaurants, and I can tell you, it really gets you pumped up because our employees are so grateful to be working and to be a part of Chipotle and making a difference in their communities and moving our company and culture forward.
Well, and I'm guessing you're visiting a lot more workers because you guys have been on a significant hiring push. Back in July, you talked about hiring about 10,000 workers. So how has that push gone so far? Where are you in that process?
Yeah, it's been, we're very fortunate. People have been really excited to join Chipotle, and the applications have been, frankly, really exciting to see.
Didn't you get something like 700,000?
So we're hiring.
Didn't you get something like 700,000 applications or something? It was crazy.
I don't remember what the number is, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's close to right.
Yeah.